Hello everybody, I'm Jessicat, and today I'm doing a third renewable resources video, as you must have guessed from the title of this video. Today we are talking about rich resources in Minecraft 1.15.1 are renewable. This is exclusively for Minecraft 1.15.1 in Java edition, so if things are different in a different version of the game, please don't comment about that because that is not what this video is about. But if you believe I have made a mistake here, then please feel free to let me know. Now, what exactly is a renewable resource? A renewable resource is a resource that could be theoretically collected over and over and over again in survival Minecraft with no cheats and no exploiting of bugs. So all of it is legitimate, and so the idea is that given an infinite amount of time, you could collect an infinite amount of these resources. So that is why, for example, granite, diorite, and andesite are not renewable resources because even though you can find a lot of them in the world, you won't be able to find infinite amounts of them. Technically speaking, a Minecraft world is not infinite, so eventually once you had mined out all the andesite, diorite, and granite, and you got to the edges of the world, you wouldn't be able to mine out anymore. Blocks in this red area here are non-renewable, and the blocks in this green area here are renewable. So right now, I'm just going to go through these rows of blocks and items and just allow you to observe and see which ones are renewable and which ones aren't. Note that I have put the similar types of blocks in columns, so, we have all the stained glass in a column here, for instance, but these are all the renewable blocks. And some of them are renewable because they can be grown over and over with bone meal, which is a renewable resource because you can kill skeletons for it over and over. Some of these are renewable because they are tradable with villagers. Obsidian is renewable because nether portals can be exploited to break them over and over again and get as much obsidian as you want. And we're just going to keep going here. All of these blocks are renewable. All of the pressure plates, all of the types of ice, snow, clay, fence posts, basically anything that can be crafted out of wood is renewable. Glowstone is renewable because witches drop glowstone dust. And you can see we are just going to keep going through all of the renewable resources, and there's a lot of them. As you can see, there's a lot more renewable resources than non-renewable resources. Buttons, anvils. Terracotta is renewable because if you get the Hero of the Village effect, some villagers will throw clay blocks at you, which can then be smelted into terracotta and dyed using dye from renewable flowers. So there's another one. All of the coral blocks are renewable because wandering traders trade the actual coral blocks, and the coral fans and such can be grown underwater with bone meal. Doors. All of these tools are renewable, except for diamond tools, and we'll get to that in a second. Many different materials. Chainmail armor is renewable, because it is tradable with villagers. Diamond armor is renewable because it is tradable with villagers. All of these materials. We're just going to keep going. Beds. This bottle here represents all potions. All potions that are craftable are renewable. There are a few uncraftable potions in the game, but those we're not going to be talking about. And then we have all of this stuff as well. The mob heads are all renewable, because you can spawn the mobs over and over and kill them with charged creepers over and over. Leather horse armor is the only type of horse armor that is renewable because it is tradable with villagers and also craftable, while the other types of horse armor can only be found in dungeon chests and such, so they are not renewable. Again, the lingering potion and the splash potion are both renewable, and these two are here representing all lingering potions and splash potions. And here we have all of the blocks in the new village update, the village and pillage update, and you'll notice that there is one exception. That exception is over here. The fletching table is not renewable because it requires flint to be crafted, and flint is not renewable because it comes from gravel, and gravel is not renewable because it is not tradable in any way. And if you keep going through the world looking for gravel and digging out all the gravel, eventually you're going to run out of gravel. So technically the fletching table is not renewable. Neither is the bee's nest. There are just a finite amount of these in the world, and after you find them all, there aren't going to be any more. So yes, indeed, now we're going to go through all the non-renewables, and here they are in their full glory. The notch apple, of course, used to be renewable, but now isn't anymore. The lava bucket is not renewable because eventually you're going to run out of lava. And we're going to keep going through these. All of these are not renewable. The tall grass and the fern have been included here because you cannot obtain them in survival. The double grass and double fern, that is. The single ones you can obtain in survival. And there are other blocks like the path block here that are included because they cannot be obtained in survival. The observer is not renewable because it requires quartz, and quartz is not renewable. The beacon is not renewable because it requires nether stars, which are obtained from withers, which are created using soul sand, and soul sand is not renewable. These blocks, by the way, are infested silverfish blocks, and although technically you could create an infinite amount of them, you can't pick them up in your inventory, you cannot obtain them in survival, so that is why they're in with the non-renewable blocks. And that is about it for the renewable and non-renewable blocks. Next up, I want to highlight a few different examples and just talk about some extra things. So here we have 4 dirt-based blocks: dirt, grass, mycelium, and podzol. All 4 of these are renewable, and you might be wondering why. Well, the reason is that the Wandering Trader, when it was added, permitted a lot of blocks to become renewable, and Wandering Traders sometimes have podzol as a trade, which means that the rest of these blocks can be created in some way from podzol, and thus they are also renewable. So podzol can be turned into dirt, grass, or mycelium, which is why all 4 of these are renewable. Coarse dirt, however, is not, because although dirt is renewable, gravel is not, and you need gravel to create coarse dirt, so coarse dirt is not renewable. I also want to talk briefly about the difference between the polished and rough versions of diorite, andesite, and granite. The polished versions are renewable. The unpolished versions are not. That is because the unpolished versions are only available out in the wild, underground, where you dig them up, whereas the polished versions can be traded with villagers, and unfortunately it is impossible to uncraft the polished versions into their unpolished variants. Therefore, the unpolished variants are not renewable, and the polished variants are. That's a funny little detail for you. Diamonds themselves are not renewable. They are not tradable, as far as I know. They are not droppable from any mob. The only way to find them is underground or in chest loot. Diamond armor, however, is tradable. Certain villagers will trade diamond armor, and therefore diamond armor is renewable while diamonds are not. And this also means that diamond tools are not renewable either, because although you can find them in end cities, those end cities are finite and cannot be regenerated. Quartz, as I mentioned previously, is not renewable. This means that the comparator is not renewable while the redstone repeater is, because repeaters do not require quartz and comparators do. And as I mentioned before, gravel is not renewable, and while that might not seem like such a big deal, it also means that flint is not renewable, and most importantly, concrete is not renewable. So all of those beautiful, colorful blocks over there are technically not renewable, and I think that's a bit of a bummer because concrete is a material that when used is often used in large quantities, and if gravel were farmable in some way, I think it would make it a lot easier to obtain those large quantities of concrete that are needed for large projects. I think that the solution to a lot of these unrenewable blocks is simply to make them tradable. Like I said, the Wandering Trader allows many blocks to be traded and become renewable when they were not renewable before. So I think if Mojang added ways to trade some of these other blocks with villagers, that would be great. So for example, if villagers could trade gravel, that would be fantastic. If villagers could trade the unpolished versions of diorite, andesite, and granite, that would also be fantastic. But these are just some ideas, and overall, I don't think it's a big deal that these blocks are non-renewable because it makes them rarer and more difficult to find. It makes them more precious. So those are my thoughts on renewable blocks and non-renewable blocks. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed seeing all of these laid out in front of you. I hope you like knowing that there are a lot more renewable things in Minecraft than non-renewable things. And with that, I will leave you. Thank you so very much for watching. Let me know if I made a mistake in the comments. Happy holidays, and I will see you next week. Bye!